Hey guys, so this is the Jeep everybody wants. I wanted to show you guys this 392 JL. This happens to be my friend Jason's Jeep, and this was one of the first 392s off the production line. We got this Jeep in July. We already had all the parts waiting for it, and we went for it and got it done. It's back for a couple change orders and additions, and so while it's up on the rack, I figured I wanted to show you guys around this thing. This is the ultimate Jeep. It's the one everybody wants. So to start with, we went with Hutchinson true double bead locks, DOT approved. Basically, it's a split rim with an inner tire liner. They balance out great, and 39-inch 1350 KM3s. Not a 40, but 39. Sorry, Jay. Notice this is 8-lug because for the front axle, Spicer Ultimate Dana 60s. The one thing about 392s that's got everybody kind of in a huff is that they come with an all-wheel drive transfer case. When we first built this, I thought that was a deterrent and not so cool. And now that we have our shop 392, I'm starting to realize that the all-wheel drive transfer case is pretty cool to have. So anyway, what we did to the Spicer Ultimate 60 was we went ahead and put RCVs in the front. Then Jason can drive the Jeep with the hubs locked if he wants to and still have all-wheel drive. And the reason why I'm liking the all-wheel drive transfer case is these things drive and haul ass in all-wheel drive. You put it in two-wheel drive, it just burns out. So in the front here, you have our HD drag link and our HD tie rod, 2-inch quarter wall. Got a Fox steering stabilizer. And then in the front, we went with the Poison Spider front bumper and skid, and then a Xeon 10,000 winch with synthetic. Just rigid lights, kept it simple there. But basically what I really want to show you is the lifeblood of the Jeep, and that's our suspension kit. So this 392 is the first one we did with our WFO Long Arm kit. So here you see the arms coming in. Our bracket is a true bolt-in upper control arm bracket, and we repurposed these heat shields to keep it away from the exhaust, and the upper control arm bracket bolts in. The lower control arm bracket is part of our new heavy-duty cross member that's hidden underneath here. So as you pan around to the back, or actually come up front here to start, so this was the first production run. So this 392 has the aluminum skid plate, which is giant. And you can see that the drain plug is directly on the bottom of the aluminum skid plate. What a stupid place for Jeep to put it. So my new one, which is a 2021 as well, came with a steel oil pan and the drain plug on the back of it, so it won't hang down as much. But Jason still has the aluminum oil pan. So we went with Metal Cloak's all steel skid plates to protect everything. And just keeping in line with our powder coat color, we sandblasted and powder coated them. And then as you can see, gas tank skid, transfer case skid, all the way to the back of the Jeep. So one thing I want to touch on before we move completely to the back is something you have to do on the 392 with our long arm kit. Loop around here and look right in this area. So this is the downpipe and the factory cat. And as you can see, we added a V-band right up here. So we basically took the factory downpipe, just twisted the cat a little bit, added a V-band in order to keep this upper link mount inside the frame where it's supposed to be bolt in, and then the heat shield, keeps the cat away from it from melting it. Another thing we had to do is the cross pipe that comes from the passenger side to the driver's side is a little big and interferes with the new heavy-duty cross member. So basically we cut that apart and just moved it around and tweaked it and put it back in order to fit the cross member in the links. So that is a modification you will have to do if you're putting our long arm in a 392. Now, as we work our way to the back on this thing, one thing you'll notice right here on the Metal Cloak skid plate is we took a slight cut with the Sawzall or cutoff wheel to clearance the lower link mount. That was a modification that did have to happen. And the other modification is their skid plate normally comes back and encapsulates this existing bolt hole that we put the rear control arm on. So we cut the end of the skid plate off, drilled and tapped the frame, and just moved the bolt forward. So the original skid plate went to here. So we had to mod the Metal Cloak skid plate just a little bit to fit with the long arm. So while we're here, you can see this is our rear long arm control arm bracket, and we're actually lifting the Jeep off of it to show you guys. So you have the upper and rear, they're bent, they clear the frame. There's a small amount of body mount trimming right here that needs to be done, very little. Once again, it's all bolt in. If you come over here to the other side, and the rear control arms are 2-inch quarter wall. So if you come over here to the other side, the other slight mod we had to make is right here on the edge of the gas tank skid. We took about 1.5 inches off where it was going to interfere with the lower control arm. Once again, it was a straight cut and a straight cut across and a little notch for the bolt. So it's not a big modification. It can be done by an installer, all the mods in about an hour. So underneath here, 1350 CV rear driveline, and then on the front driveline we do a 1350 CV but with a 2-inch tube size, so it clears everything up underneath in the transfer case. Same thing, low pinion, ultimate Dana 60 in the rear, and this is something we just did on this round that I really like. So the 392s have a true dual exhaust all the way to the back with a giant muffler in the back with a button that has valves so you can make it loud or quiet. The muffler just hangs down way too much. And then also the true dual exhaust takes up a bunch of space. So we did something new on this one. So we had Dominic down at M&M build us this handmade TIG welded stainless Y. So dual 3 into single 3 into an 18-inch long stainless steel body MagnaFlow. And then as you look in the back, really, really clean tailpipe, swoops up, over, down. Nothing hangs lower than the frame back here. So instead of having that giant muffler here with the tailpipes, Jason's got all the clearance he can have with a full stainless TIG welded exhaust, and it sounds bitchin'. You can't make it quiet, but it sounds good. As far as the rear axle, not much to see here. This is a Spicer Ultimate Dana 60, and this Jeep has the 2.5-inch Fox adjustable shocks. And then for bump stops, just standard bumps with bump stop spacers going up, and these are the Metal Cloak 3.5-inch coils, front and rear. In the front, to compensate for the 392, we used the JK 3.5-inch coils, and then we also added a 3/4-inch isolator to raise it up just a little bit so it sat level. Other than that, this Jeep with regular coils and these Fox shocks drives absolutely amazing. You got to check the video of me doing donuts. Handles great. Sorry, Jason. And then top it off, you got your Genright, rockers, and then Genright fenders. Now, with the 39s, we were not able to fit the factory inner fender wells, nor were we able to fit anybody else's inner fender wells in there, because the tire tucked so far up in there that it was just hitting and rubbing on things. In the rear, we got the Poison Spider rear bumper and tire rack with LED lights, moved the camera and the license plates up to the top, and kept it simple there. So on the exterior of this thing, we kept it pretty simple. So the Stingray Jeep with raw aluminum, that's a look that Jason really wanted. So as you can see, the Genright aluminum rock sliders, Genright tube fenders front and rear, they're just in raw shape, and they look killer with that color Jeep and with our suspension links and belly pan kind of all going together. In the front, we did something that's a little bit signature to us and we really like to do. So you can see we sunk the Fox 2.5-inch reservoir into the fender and rerouted the hoses. We really like to do this on all the builds that we do. And the reason being is that the 2.5-inch Foxes, they always want you to mount the reservoir right here in the front of the bumper. Now, with 40-inch tires and only 3.5 inches of lift, these tires take up a lot of real estate. With the reservoir here, it seems like we're always catching it, ripping the hose or whatever. So by relocating the reservoir up there, it's a heck of a lot of work, but it just makes the overall look of the rig rad. We used the Genright inner fenders, but we were not able to use the Genright rear inner fenders because we had so much up travel and so much stuff, it was catching the fenders. So overall, the look, the feel of the Jeep came out awesome. Just having standard bump stops, standard coils, and the Fox 2.5-inch adjustable shocks, the ride is amazing. It handles bitchin', does donuts great. So let's get it down, let's take it for a ride, and then I'll show you the inside of it. So the single MagnaFlow has that perfect amount of rumble, but it's not obnoxious. And we got all the clearance and cleanliness in the world now. Man, this thing just rides so nice. So on the inside, nothing fancy at all in here. All we did was add this S-Pod. And so the S-Pod has the front locker, the rear locker, ARB compressor, rock lights. So there was no room underneath the hood to fit the ARB compressor. So ARB has a new bracket, and it's right underneath the seat. You can see it underneath there. And then if you look from the back, you can't even see it back there. So it tucks in there so tight, doesn't affect anything. And then we went ahead and, let me turn the air compressor off. We ran an air line to the front bumper right here for airing up. And then we also ran an air line to the back bumper. So you got your onboard air, you got your 40s, you got your 470 horsepower. One thing you have to have as well is liquid management. So went ahead and put ARB 37 quart with the full slide, wired it all in with the ARB wiring harness, even matches with the gray to the Stingray Jeep. Now, what we had to do is completely modify the back of the Jeep. We had to cut out the floor mat. And as you can see, the storage tray is still accessible when you slide the ARB out. So you can still put, tire pump up gauge or something in there. Now this factory carpet, we had to cut it and trim it to fit the ARB ice chest in here, but it still does lift up, and you still can get this cover out and get to your jack and all the stowage. So we were able to utilize everything in the Jeep, and then we topped it off with Genright's basket. So when Jason hits the trail, which he will immediately, this is not a pavement pounder, he'll be able to keep his drinks cold and his stuff up there. Got the Poison Spider rear bumper with the swinging tire rack. We relocated the license plate to the back like always. Got the backup camera, third brake light, and then went ahead with rigid backup lights underneath there. So I don't really know what else you could do to build the perfect Jeep. This thing handles great, drives great, and is awesome. And all the bad press about the 392s being all-wheel drive, in my opinion, after driving multiple 392s, it's nothing to worry about. So the last thing that just came out is that when we first built this, Taser had a program, or Taser didn't have a program to do anything about that all-wheel drive. So now we've updated the Taser, and we can select in here two-wheel drive. Now here's the deal. You put it in two-wheel drive, you can do burnouts and donuts at your buddy's house, or in the high school parking lot. But it just doesn't seem to drive as good. So now I'm a firm believer that driving around in all-wheel drive, it just rips through the corners, pulls around the corners, still does all-wheel drive donuts. When you want to do some burnouts, go to two-wheel drive. But, don't hate the all-wheel drive transfer case. Hope you enjoyed this 392. See you on the next one. Every time somebody drops a Jeep off to get some work done, it's important for us to test drive it and see how everything is.